Hi, and welcome to English-Fabule. Are you learning English? Great. Let's learn English with a very interesting story. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. Let's get started.
This book will tell the story of a very important British leader, Margaret Thatcher. She was born Margaret Roberts in a small town called Grantham. Her father owned a shop there, and because of this, some people knew her as the grocer's daughter. She showed a strong will from a young age and worked very hard. Later, she achieved something truly historic. She became the first woman to be Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. This was a huge step for Britain and changed many things. During her time as Prime Minister, Margaret Thatcher made many big decisions. These choices led to great changes across the country. She was known for her strong leadership and firm beliefs. People often gave her the nickname the Iron Lady because she was so tough. Even now, many years after her time in power, people still have strong feelings about her. Some admired her greatly, believing she made Britain strong again. Others disagreed with her policies. She left a powerful and lasting mark on British history, and her story is one of determination and big change. 2. A girl from a small town. Margaret Roberts was born in Grantham, a small town in Lincolnshire, England, on October 13, 1925. Her family lived above her father's grocery and tobacconist shop. This shop was an important part of her childhood, where she learned about hard work and everyday life. Her father, Alfred Roberts, was a strong influence on her. He was not only a shop owner, but also a local politician, serving as an alderman and a Methodist preacher. He taught Margaret about hard work, self-reliance, and public service. He even served as mayor of Grantham from 1945 to 1946. Margaret worked very hard at school. She first went to Huntingtower Road Primary School. Later, she won a scholarship to Kesteven and Grantham Girls' School, a grammar school. Her school reports always showed her dedication and how she improved continuously. She was chosen as head girl in 1942 and 1943, showing her leadership skills early on. Her efforts helped Margaret win a place at Oxford University. She went to Somerville College to study chemistry. She started her studies there in October 1943 and finished in 1947, earning a second-class honors degree. Her time at Oxford was not only about science. While at university, Margaret also developed a keen interest in politics. She was already thinking about a career in law or government. In 1946, she became the president of the Oxford University Conservative Association. This step showed her early commitment to conservative politics and public life long before she became a national figure. 3. Her first job in politics. After finishing university, Margaret Roberts began her professional life as a research chemist. She worked for companies like British Xylenite and then J. Lyons & Co., where she contributed to developing ingredients used in ice cream. However, her deep interest in politics, which started at Oxford, remained her true passion. She made her first attempts to become a Member of Parliament, or MP, for the Dartford area in the general elections of 1950 and 1951. As the youngest and the only woman candidate, she gained attention. Despite her dedication and hard work during these campaigns, she was not successful in winning the seat on either occasion. It was during these early political efforts that she met Dennis Thatcher, a successful businessman. They married in December 1951, starting a new chapter in her life. Margaret then decided to pursue a new career path and began studying law. Her husband, Dennis, supported her financially during her legal training. In 1953, she qualified as a barrister, choosing to specialize in tax law. This same year was also significant personally, as her twin children, Carol and Mark, were born. Her persistence in politics finally paid off in 1959. After a determined campaign, she won the election for the Finchley constituency and successfully entered Parliament as an MP. This marked her official start in national politics. Her capabilities quickly became clear, and she began to rise through the Conservative Party. In 1961, she received her first front-bench position as Parliamentary Secretary to the Ministry for Pensions. She later held roles as a spokeswoman on housing and for the Treasury team. In 1970, when Edward Heath became Prime Minister, he appointed Margaret Thatcher as the Secretary of State for Education and Science. This was a significant cabinet position. Her tenure in this role is often remembered for a controversial decision: the abolition of free milk for schoolchildren aged 7 to 11. This move caused widespread public protest and earned her the famous, though critical, nickname Margaret Thatcher, Milk Snatcher. She later expressed that she disliked the policy herself, having been compelled to implement the spending cuts by the Treasury. This experience taught her a valuable lesson about facing public and political opposition. 4. The new leader. In 1974, the Conservative Party lost the general election. Edward Heath was then the Prime Minister, and his leadership was questioned. Margaret Thatcher saw an opportunity and challenged Heath for the party's top position. In 1975, she won. This made her the first woman to lead a major political party in Britain, a truly historic moment. For the next 4 years, from 1975 to 1979, she served as leader of the opposition. She worked to develop her party's policies and present a new vision for the country. Her strong opinions quickly earned her a new name. In 1976, after a speech criticizing the Soviet Union, a Soviet newspaper called her the Iron Lady. This nickname became famous, showing her tough and unyielding character, a name she herself embraced. During these years, Britain faced difficult times. The late 1970s saw many strikes and economic issues, a period often called the Winter of Discontent. The government struggled to control the situation, and public unhappiness grew. Finally, a general election was called in 1979. Margaret Thatcher and the Conservatives promised strong solutions to the country's problems. They won with a clear majority. On May 4, 1979, Margaret Thatcher officially became the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, making history as the first woman to hold that powerful office. 5. The Iron Lady in Power. When Margaret Thatcher became Prime Minister in 1979, she quickly began to change Britain. She introduced new economic ideas, which people called Thatcherism. Her main goals were to lower some taxes and to reduce the power of trade unions. She believed in giving people more freedom and wanted to sell some state-owned companies. These changes were meant to make the British economy stronger. However, the country faced difficult times at first. There was a bad recession, and many people lost their jobs. Unemployment rose to over 3 million, which made some people unhappy with her policies. Many asked her to change her plans, to make a U-turn. But at a big meeting in 1980, Margaret Thatcher gave a very famous speech. She bravely told everyone, "You turn if you want to. The lady's not for turning." She meant she would not change her mind. In April 1982, a big event happened. Argentina invaded the Falkland Islands, which belonged to Britain. Margaret Thatcher decided to send a large naval force to take back the islands. This was a very risky decision. The British armed forces fought hard, and in June, Argentina surrendered. Britain won the Falklands War. This victory made Margaret Thatcher much more popular. Many people felt proud and supported her strong leadership. Because of the war victory and a slowly improving economy, she became very popular again. In 1983, she won another general election easily. It was a huge win for her, securing her a second term as Prime Minister. She was now ready to make even more big changes to the country. 6. A time of big changes. The years after Margaret Thatcher's second election victory were full of big events and changes for Britain. In October 1984, she narrowly escaped an assassination attempt. The Provisional Irish Republican Army, or IRA, planted a bomb at a hotel in Brighton, where she was staying for a political conference. 5 people died in the attack, but Mrs. Thatcher was unharmed. Showing her strong will, she insisted the conference continue as planned and gave her speech the next day. This act of defiance made her even more popular with many people. Soon after this, a major conflict began, lasting a whole year. It was the miners' strike from 1984 to 1985. The government wanted to close many coal mines, which would mean thousands of miners losing their jobs. The National Union of Mine Workers, NUM, led by Arthur Scargill, called for a strike. However, the strike was not officially voted for by all miners, so courts said it was not legal. Margaret Thatcher believed the unions had too much power and refused to change her mind. After a long and difficult year, the miners had to stop their strike without reaching a deal. This was a big victory for the government and greatly changed the power of trade unions in Britain forever. Many more mines closed, and whole communities suffered as jobs disappeared. Another key policy of Thatcher's government was privatization. This meant selling large companies that the state owned and controlled to private owners. For example, British Gas and British Telecom, which had been owned by the government, were sold to become private companies. The idea was that private companies would work better and offer more choice and lower prices for customers. Many people bought shares in these new private companies, becoming owners themselves. However, not all her policies were popular. In 1989, the government introduced a new tax called the community charge, often known as the poll tax. This tax meant that every adult had to pay the same amount of money, no matter how rich or poor they were, or how big their house was. People quickly saw this as unfair. It led to widespread anger across the country. There were large protests, and in March 1990, a big demonstration in London turned into serious riots. The poll tax became one of the most unpopular decisions of her time as Prime Minister, and was later cancelled by her successor. 7. Britain and the world. Margaret Thatcher had a strong friendship and political partnership with U.S. President Ronald Reagan. Both leaders shared a deep distrust of communism and believed in strong defense during the Cold War. She gave firm support to Reagan's policies, including allowing the U.S. to place nuclear missiles in Britain from 1983. This decision, however, led to significant public protests. In April 1986, she also permitted U.S. planes to use British bases for an attack on Libya. Later, when Iraq invaded Kuwait in 1990, she strongly encouraged U.S. President George H.W. Bush to take military action. Initially, Thatcher took a very tough stance against the Soviet Union, especially after its invasion of Afghanistan in 1979. She called them bent on world dominance. But as the Cold War began to change, she developed a good working relationship with the new reformist Soviet leader, Mikhail Gorbachev. She even visited the Soviet Union in 1984, marking a shift towards a more open dialogue. A key international negotiation involved the future of Hong Kong. In September 1982, Thatcher traveled to China to discuss its sovereignty after 1997. China's leader, Deng Xiaoping, insisted Hong Kong must return to Chinese control. After 2 years of complex discussions, Britain signed an agreement in Beijing in 1984, agreeing to hand over Hong Kong in 1997 with promises to maintain its stability. On the issue of South Africa, Thatcher took a controversial position. She strongly opposed economic sanctions against the apartheid regime, which many other countries and the Commonwealth supported. Instead, she favored peaceful negotiations and tried to persuade the South African government to end its system of racial segregation through dialogue rather than punishment. Thatcher's views on Europe also changed over time. While she initially supported Britain's membership in the European Economic Community, EEC, and signed the Single European Act, she grew increasingly doubtful about further integration. She believed the EEC's role should be limited to trade and competition. She worried that a push for a federal Europe or a European superstate would take too much power from national governments. In her important Bruges speech in 1988, she made her strong opposition clear, stating Britain would not accept state power being reimposed at a European level. 8. Her final years and legacy. By the late 1980s, many in Margaret Thatcher's own party grew unhappy. Her new tax, called the poll tax, was very unpopular, leading to public protests. Also, her strong views on Europe were different from many of her government colleagues. This led to a challenge to her leadership. After an initial vote in November 1990, it was clear she did not have enough support. Margaret Thatcher decided to step down as Prime Minister. John Major became the new leader. After leaving Downing Street, Margaret Thatcher remained in public life. In 1992, she left the House of Commons, but became Baroness Thatcher, sitting in the House of Lords. She wrote 2 memoirs, The Downing Street Years, 1993, and The Path to Power, 1995, sharing her experiences. However, her health declined. After several small strokes, doctors advised her to stop public speaking in 2002. Her husband, Sir Dennis, passed away in 2003. Despite her health, she attended important events, like the state funeral of U.S. President Ronald Reagan in 2004. Her daughter, Carol, later spoke about her mother's dementia. Margaret Thatcher died in London on April 8, 2013, at 87, after a stroke. Her funeral was a large ceremonial event at St. Paul's Cathedral, attended by Queen Elizabeth II. She was laid to rest next to her husband. Margaret Thatcher was Prime Minister for over 11 years, the longest in the 20th century, and Britain's first female leader. Her actions deeply changed Britain's economy and society. She remains a polarizing figure, admired by some for her strength and criticized by others for creating divisions. Her legacy is still debated today. What do you think was Margaret Thatcher's most lasting impact on Britain?
Hey there! Just a second before you go. If you learned something new today, please give this video a like, write your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel. It only takes a second, and it really, really helps to create even better English videos for you. Your support means the world. Thank you.